Many companies I work with are justifiably anxious about security of their own data, information, patents, and just about everything else, keeping their strategies secret and so on. And that is why many companies ask people like myself as outside advisors and strategists to sign so-called non-disclosure agreements. And sometimes these can be very lengthy. Usually they're just a few paragraphs and say things like, if you can prove that you knew something already or it becomes into the public domain, that's fine, but otherwise it's one of our secrets. Occasionally you get a very long document. I got one that was no less than 60 pages long from one of the most famous companies in the world, which shall remain nameless. I was utterly astonished by its size. In fact, I phoned them up and refused to sign it. I have to say that non-disclosure agreements are, in my view, almost worthless because of two things. Firstly, it's very, very difficult to enforce them because first of all, you have to detect the leakage. Secondly, you have to be able to prove yourself that the person wasn't able to derive that information from some other source. And it's often really relatively easy for the individual to show that it is available from other sources. But the primary issue is trust. At the end of the day, you have to trust the people you work with. And you see, it's leakage from other causes that causes the real challenge. Every employee that leaves your organisation carries your secrets with them, and there's no amount of non-disclosure agreements that you can put that can try and bind them to you. Because if they've left, they may no longer feel any sense of loyalty to you anyway. Indeed, they may be angry with you, and which is why they're leaving. And every employee that comes into your organisation is therefore also a source of priceless intelligence about your competitor. And again, there may be all kinds of conflicts of loyalty or not. And employee movements from one organisation to another is a huge source of data leakage. Another is a disgruntled employee inside an organisation, or just a careless one. People have partners with other people, they have relationships, they have marriages, they have cousins, they have nephews, they have nieces, they have mothers and fathers, they have friends and drinking neighbours in a club, and so on. All of these are points of leakage. And then you get deliberate leakage within the organisation, which is almost akin to sabotage, systematic destructive leakage from inside, perhaps by people who have been paid to do things which are totally against the interests of the company. But there's another area of leakage which is really important, which is full-scale industrial espionage, which is an area which has grown dramatically over the last 5 to 10 years. Some of this is government-driven. It's the use, or rather the abuse, of the normal espionage channels to derive commercially sensitive information. And the fact is that every email that's transmitted in the UK is listened to or is picked up. Every email in the United States and in many other parts of the world is intercepted. And that means that emails from organisations, unless they're encrypted, are liable to be screened, and it's easy to track organisations' emails by targeting those particular email addresses and so on, or by targeting keywords. So there's leakage that way, there's leakage by listening into phone calls, and there's leakage by governments bugging phones directly and so on, and a whole host of things like that. But there's also leakage through commercial bugging, commercial espionage attacks on other organisations, and these are very difficult to detect. The latest forms of bugging are passive devices which can sit in walls turned off for much of the time. They're only turned on after the meeting itself has started, so the scanning devices usually don't work, and then they're turned off just as the meeting closes. And they can be embedded in just about anything you like. They can last up to 100 years in that position, eating up electricity off a mains power switch or whatever. Now, it's true that a very sophisticated scanning system can detect microphones that are turned off in walls, but it's the difficult process. It requires an hour or two to scan a room, and it has to be done every day. So espionage of that kind is actually very easy. So is the bugging of an individual. I was speaking to a conference of bankers recently. It was just a small group of 25 to 30 people, and as I was pacing around the room and talking with them, I announced that during the previous 20 minutes, while they were actually watching me, I had secretly bugged one of them in the room. And of course there's some consternation. I said, what is more, this bug is so sensitive, I can listen to anything that you say up to a mile away from now on. And what is more, here is the receiving device, so now locate the bug. And within the room, the 25 of them took this receiver, the microphone, and started to listen to try to identify where the bug was coming from. And it took them ages. I think it took them about 20 minutes to actually locate the bug. It was easy enough. The bug was contained in something that looked exactly like a credit card. As I walked around behind one of the delegates, he had his jacket off on the back of his chair. I slipped it into the top pocket of his jacket and he was bugged. And there it was. Would he have discovered it? Well, I don't think he'd have gone through the top pocket of his jacket for months, probably. So, industrial espionage, it's real. Security systems, they need to be tightened. Few people realize that it is possible, using simple technology, to read what is on the screen, not only of every ordinary cathode ray tube, old-fashioned display technology, but on the display of every liquid crystal display screen, on every laptop. We can see what is on every laptop that is made, unless it's specially screened, which costs a fortune. You can see that using equipment that you can put in a van outside the building. You just tune to the individual laptop and there it is. You can see every keystroke, you can see every image perfectly displayed. That is commercially available equipment. It's a massive leakage of data potentially from every institution. Can you protect against it? Yes, you can. You can put a screen around a building. It has to be within the walls and within the windows, which will prevent, it's a Faraday cage, what they call a Faraday cage. It's an earthed matrix of wires, it's like chicken wire, which will prevent the emission of any radio waves. That's true, you can do that if you like. That's a big way to do it, very expensive. But of course, that laptop will still radiate data the moment it's turned on in the car, the moment it's turned on a train, or in a plane, or in your own home when you get back, or in an internet cafe. It's radiating all the time. It can still be picked up by someone who wants to track you and watch what's on your screen. The only alternative is to use a sophisticated portable which has been specifically designed with screening technology built into it. They're heavy and they're expensive. So what's the lesson? The lesson is, be careful about espionage, yes, but also recognize, funnily enough, that your greatest risks are not someone outside with a van trying to tune into your laptop, because actually it's quite difficult and actually it is fairly expensive. But the greatest risk is the informal leakage by people inside your organization with people out.